Hello, everybody. Welcome to this segment of KOIN Conversations. I am Mia Villanueva here with Kyle Camberg with the Sunshine Division, a very loyal partner at KOIN 6 here. Kyle, thank you so much for being with us today. You're a very familiar face on TVs at home. Everyone loves to speak with the Sunshine Division. You guys do such great work. Can you tell me how long you've been with the organization for?
Yeah, this summer was my 14th year, and
Wow.
it's been quite a journey, as we've talked about. So much has changed. When I started, we were coming out of, the housing crisis, stock market, all that, and those were very real challenges, and really turned the country and the world upside down there for a while. But things kind of got good, so to speak, after that, and the past 5 years have been really a roller coaster for so many people, so many obstacles.
Yeah, I know you said you've been with the Sunshine Division for 14 years, so you'd say the last 5 have been the most difficult, which makes sense because we're thinking 2020 to 2025.
Absolutely. I mean, it's I've said this before with you and others. It's been sort of one gut punch after the other for working families, people on fixed income, senior citizens, veterans. We all know about the pandemic. We're tired of talking about the pandemic, but there's still lasting impacts of that. But it was also school closures. It was also there's been more ice storms and wildfires than I can remember in my life. I've lived in Oregon pretty much my whole life, and the sort of national or natural disasters we've had, and then inflation. It's the other one we've all seen. It doesn't matter who you are, that when you go to a store to buy something, whether that's clothing, whether that's food, or even just your your utility bills, everything costs a lot more than it did just a few years ago, and so. Different people have different ways of weathering that, but the reality is it doesn't matter who you are. Your dollar doesn't go as far as it used to 5 years ago. And so it's created a lot of challenges, not just here in the Portland metro area, but really across the country.
Yeah, certainly. The impacts of the pandemic are lasting in so many areas, but especially in food insecurity. And it's funny you bring up ice storms, fires here. Yeah. Sometimes when we hear about these natural disasters, these big weather events, we don't automatically start thinking about, hey, this is going to impact people's ability to put food on the table. Can you tell us a little bit about how those ice storms, because we're heading into the winter season here, those days, hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed, but every year since I've been here since 2021, we've had some sort of snowstorm, ice storm. Can you tell us how that impacts people's abilities to put food on the table?
Well, with the wildfires and that, really that was something most of us in the Willamette Valley have never dealt with. Maybe if you lived in Central Oregon, you're a little more in tune with wildfires. But those wildfires, I mean, people lost homes, people lost businesses, displaced, having to go to shelters and go live with relatives. So, those weren't just your random ice storm that put you out of work for a couple of days. And then, with the ice storms and, different snow events we've had the past few years, a lot of businesses just closed, and people that are hourly employees, or when schools are closed, if you're a single working parent, maybe your job didn't close, but your kids are home, they have real, economic impacts. And so, like I said, everything's just really compounded on top of one thing after the other, and it's been relentless. People haven't had a break. The other thing, there's so many other things that aren't necessary, you wouldn't necessarily tie to food, but look at the cost of daycare, look at the cost of housing, look at the cost of healthcare. I know personally for our organization, we're just looking at our healthcare renewals right now, and we're lucky that it's only going to be 15% this year.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it's going to be for the average Oregonian, but I know it's going up. And so it'd just be nice if we had a pause or a break from negative variables for people. And most of them are financial. And that all, at the end of the month, it comes down to, can I afford my light bill? Can I put gas in my car? Can I put food on the table? And that's really what we see from, these are just normal, everyday Oregonians that are forced to make tough decisions that you hope people wouldn't have to. But the economic variables are just so stacked against a lot of people. It's just a reality for a huge percentage of our population.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like everything impacts food insecurity. There's a trickle-down effect, whether it be, of course, the pandemic, weather events, and now, under the current administration, significant cuts to federal benefits like SNAP benefits. I know those changes have started rolling out here in October, impacting about 300,000 families around that in Oregon will see cuts or changes to their benefits. Are you guys seeing that trickle-down effect already at the Sunshine Division of more people inquiring about your services?
Absolutely. And so this summer, kind of in advance of this, we expanded our hours so we have more availability at our food pantry. We also added about 100 additional home delivery boxes every week. We're gearing up for the holidays. We're always busier at the holidays, regardless of sort of the state of the economy. But we're gearing up. So again, this year we're going to have another massive Thanksgiving home delivery to 2,000 homes, and
Wow.
it's this December, the Saturday prior to Christmas. It's our favorite tradition. The 103rd year in a row. It's really what kind of started Sunshine Division back in 1923. We're going to do a massive holiday home delivery to 2,500 homes in Portland and Gresham. But then we also share another 1,500 really hearty holiday food boxes and turkey meals with social service agencies all across 4 counties. And then a really neat thing we do as well is this partnership with Safeway Albertsons, where we're going to share about 5,000 frozen turkey meals also all across the greater Portland metro area and Clark County. And so we do a lot. We step up. But those, to answer your question a little better, those questions, how do I get service? How does this work? It's really ramping up. We're seeing that. And it's not just the Sunshine Division. It's every food bank, every food pantry in every town across the state and across the country. And, you touched on SNAP. I think most people, you start talking about SNAP, most people don't know the numbers, but about 800,000, just under 800,000 Oregonians access some form of a SNAP benefit. And so, these are people that are, in need of a little financial assistance. And so when you say that 300,000 or so could lose or have their benefit, essentially go away, that's a tremendous economic impact. And of course, that's not all in the Portland area, but you can probably extrapolate that roughly half of that's probably the Portland. So, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000 people in the Portland metro area are very soon or already, are struggling even more so. And so places like Sunshine Division are going to need to do more. And that's kind of been our rally cry. We're trying to do more, but that only happens if people support us. We're a local nonprofit that has, about 4,000 people volunteer for us. We have a small staff, but we exist because the community steps up. That's food drives, that's volunteering, and that's making gifts at the holidays like we see every year. So we're trying to dig in, but it is a daunting challenge given all of those realities we just mentioned.
For sure. I believe the first time I met you, Kyle, was actually during a holiday season. I was at your distribution center. I want to say the one in Wilsonville.
Yeah.
Am I correct on that? The old grocery store that had been remodeled into this massive, the grocery store was massive, but the distribution center, the efforts there, they were huge as well. I was there when you guys were packing up boxes. It truly takes a village. You guys are some of the busiest people I know. You certainly are. But good news is that distribution center is now growing, right? We have a new one.
Yeah, we are getting ready for that. And so for the past 5 years, it's one of my favorite stories. Start of the pandemic, we reached out to the folks at Safeway Albertsons and said, gosh, we've got this nearly 100-year-old machine shop, and we've already long since outgrown it, but we can't expand and do more during the pandemic without more space. And I had the audacity to ask them if they might let us use a vacant grocery store, sort of indefinitely.
Yeah.
And that was April of 2020. Well, subsequently, we were in this vacant grocery store for about 2 years. They sold that building to the county. And then I had the audacity again to say, might we use a different vacant grocery store? And they sort of laughed and said, let me get back to you. And we've been using this vacant Albertsons now in Wilsonville for the past about 3 years or so. And so for 5 years, Safeway Albertsons has let us use these vacant spaces, about 50,000 square foot, just empty grocery stores. And as you saw, we spread out. We've got the food everywhere. We have assembly lines. We've got dozens of volunteers coming almost daily. So those really become our fulfillment hub, kind of like a grocery store would have a distribution center, or you see Amazon trucks going around town, and they all leave from a fulfillment hub, and that's our fulfillment hub. But what's really exciting is that 5-year runway that they've given us in these grocery stores for free. Again, if I didn't stress that, it's been free. So just donated by Safeway Albertsons, which is amazing. They've saved us probably $2 million in rent.
Wow.
It's allowed us the time to go out and not only raise money, but find the perfect future home for us. And so we've been in this little old World War II era. It's actually a pre-World War II era machine shop for about the past 50 years.
Wow.
And so now we found this perfect new home.
Yeah, let's bring that video up again.
Yeah,
It's beautiful and it's big.
It's a big building. It's modern. It's got a nice high ceiling so we can go vertical. When you were in the grocery store, you just saw the food on the ground. Now we can go vertically in a warehouse. But it's more than just a warehouse. I always refer to it, it's like our perfect tool. And really that's what it is. It's a tool to do our work. So it's going to have this great facility and center for those 4,000 people that volunteer. It's going to have space for our staff. It's going to have a food pantry for the community to come and get food. But it also has that big warehouse that we need to produce the thousands of boxes and have our community partners come to. And it's funny, the thing I get most excited about, loading docks. On the north and the south side of the building, it has loading docks.
Yeah, I got to show you this one again. I know you were really,
we were
we're going to play this video again. You were so excited about those loading docks, Kyle.
People would not understand that, but our old building in North Portland does not have loading docks. And so if you can imagine taking pallets off a truck, how much longer it takes to deal with that. So logistically, the building is so much better. It allows us, you hear the old saying, don't work harder, work smarter. We get to work smarter and more efficiently. And, ultimately, that's what we need to do, and that's what the community expects of us. Do more, do it more efficiently. So we've had this 5-year sort of bridge solution that was never meant to be the forever solution. And, huge thank you to Safeway for letting us use that space. But now we're getting ready. The construction's underway. And I say construction, some modest modifications. We've got to put some cold storage into it. We've got to put the racking. But early next year, we're going to be opening to the public and to our volunteers and the community that we serve. And, approximately 200 social service organizations that access food or turkeys or different things from, pallets of food at different times throughout the year. We'll have that home, and it's centralized. It's about a mile just due north of downtown. So it's central. It's easy to the freeways. It's got parking. It's on TriMet. It really checks all the boxes. I couldn't be happier. It was a long an arduous journey. Look, I kept referring to it as the unicorn because I wasn't sure we would ever find the right building. And we looked for about 2.5 years. And the first day I walked on the property there, I was like, this is the place. This is our home. This is the one. It was the Goldilocks. It was neither too big. It was neither too small. It had the parking. It had the space. It had the loading docks. And it was in our price range, which is another thing as well. And we're still actively raising sort of the last, about 25% of the money. But that long runway that the vacant grocery stores and Safeways let us raise a majority of the money to do this, because that's the other thing. Nothing's for we can't stay in a vacant grocery store forever.
Right.
Eventually, they were going to ask us to leave.
Yeah.
They haven't yet, and it doesn't appear that they will. But eventually, we were going to have to leave that. So it's really allowed for the perfect solution for us.
Yeah, I'm super happy for you guys, Kyle. And what really strikes me about the Sunshine Division, and I don't know if a lot of people at home know this, it's really a reflection of the community, because the work you're able to do, it's volunteer powered for sure. Yeah. And then also, you guys are not funded federally. This is all donations from corporations and from people in the community. So it's really a reflection of the heart of so many people here in the Portland Metro and beyond.
I love that you brought that up, and not to speak ill of any charitable organizations that do get federal funding, but I think it's critical to people to know. And we've had this 100+ year affiliation with the Portland Police and the City of Portland, but we're not a line item for the city. As I always jokingly say, Mayor Wilson is not my boss, but we get to work closely with the city. We have our food boxes in Portland Police precincts. Chief Day, last few years, is always out there at the holidays helping us get the turkeys out and their team. And, we have police cadets that come out to Winter Wonderland. And you probably covered our big annual Izzy's Kids Shop with a Cop this summer. 250 kids went school clothes shopping, and our donors fund that, and the police volunteer. So we have these amazing connectivity with the city that is unlike any charity. But the difference is we exist because local people have food drives, local grocery chains donate food brokers, farms, etc. And then local people like you and I, there's a few thousand people that donate to the Sunshine Division. And like you said, some of it's corporations, but most of it's just normal everyday people that are sending their $50 or $100 or $200 in, or maybe that monthly gift of $12.99 or what have you. And that's what makes this go.
Yeah.
We've never had federal funding. We've never had state funding. And we've had a few small little partnerships with the city, like the Portland Children's Levy, to do a particular program. But we're not receiving those federal dollars or those state dollars to do this. It exists for 100+ years because people here in the community love what we do and support what we do, and they show up every year. And the holidays, it's amazing.
Okay, just on the holidays note, because this is my favorite Sunshine Division event. In fact, I have a light bulb. We only have time for this last question, but I have a light bulb idea. I'm like, wait, I need a field anchor from Portland International Raceway once it's all decked out in lights for that incredible drive-through Christmas show of sorts that the Sunshine Division puts on. Is that underway this year as well?
Absolutely. So 8 years ago, with a grant, we bought a light show. It's like that movie, We Bought a Zoo. We bought a light show. We'd been a beneficiary for a lot of years. And so with a grant, we were able to buy essentially a business, an event business. And so we now run the Winter Wonderland Light Show out at PIR. But also that's where we stage our Thanksgiving and our 103rd annual holiday food delivery. So it's got two purposes for us. We're going to distribute a lot of food out of PIR with over 1,000 volunteers, but also from Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, until New Year's, you can come out and drive the lights, and 100% of those proceeds go to Sunshine Division. So it's a great thing. Pack the kids in the car, drive. It's December in Oregon. It's going to be 48 and rainy.
Yeah.
And so, as I like to say, it's a great way to stay dry and warm, but still really get that really cool holiday experience. I've been doing it for a lot of years. My son's now a teenager, so now he wants to drive the car as opposed to sit on my lap and the thing. But it's a perfect holiday. It just really kind of brings the holidays full circle. And again, all the money goes to Sunshine Division. So not only can you do an awesome thing with your family that makes you feel like you're in the holiday spirit, but you can also really talk to your kid. It's really an event with kids. Talk to your kids a little bit about giving back. And
it certainly encaptures the reason of the season. We were talking to my kids about that as we went through the light show itself. It's a favorite for us, so we're so excited for it to be back this year, Kyle.
I appreciate that.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much for being with us today, Kyle Camberg, Executive Director of the Sunshine Division, big partners with us here at KOIN 6. Kyle, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.